Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and joining me today is my good friend, colleague, buddy, pal, co-host, and cohort, partner in crime, brother from another mother, one Mr. Brian E. Roach. Brian, how you doing, my friend?
It's interesting. So I went to the diner the other day, right? I'm in Jersey. We have diners, and they're better than everyone else's diners.
Okay.
It just is a given. Anyway, I went to the diner. And we had breakfast for dinner. And my wife said, "What are you going to get?" And the woman was like, "Would you like toast?" And my wife goes, "You can't get toast. If you get toast, you will be ruining your reputation as the host who doesn't like toast. You can't get toast." And I was like, "I don't want toast. Toast is gross."
You can't do see, my old man, rest in peace, God bless his soul. He used to get coffee. Him and his buddies, his fishing buddies and whatever, they'd go coffee at like 6, 7 o'clock at night. Him and my mom, when they were together and I was young, they would go and get a coffee. Let's go get a coffee, maybe coffee and a donut. Like, I'm thinking to myself, like 6, 7 o'clock, I eat dinner pretty late. That's like dinner time for me. Now I'll add on to that, my friend. I was at we have the Big Boy out my way, as you're well aware of.
I'm aware.
Frisch's Big Boy, not Bob's
Big
Big
old
Boy.
Frisch's. Yeah.
Frisch's. Yeah. It's most people are like
the checkered pants.
Mm-hmm. And people say Frisch's. They don't actually say Big Boy in most cases. It's like identified as Frisch's. But if you're not familiar with it, Google it, folks. Long time burger franchise restaurant. I mean, it's like walking into a Denny's, an Eaton Park, Perkins, something like that. But it's more burgers. But their breakfast, they have the breakfast bar. Maybe they even call it buffet, but they had a sign for it. I guess they do it now during the week, like on a Wednesday, and they said, "Why don't you come for brupper?" And I'm like, it's breakfast and supper combined. It's on their marketing. It's on those little annoying things in the plastic that are on the table, right?
Skipping a whole meal in the middle.
Brupper. No, you're just eating breakfast for dinner. You can have breakfast for breakfast too, unless you want to like really
it's wrong.
Mess up your bowels.
I just want to see if you agree with this. So the Big Boy, right? The Big Boy is essentially a rip-off Big Mac, or a Big Mac is a rip-off Big Boy. I don't know whichever one came first.
True.
But I believe that the Big Boy sauce is more mayonnaise-y than the Big Mac sauce, and I never liked the Big Boy.
I don't do the sauce on either of them. What fascinates me,
because they're gross. Yeah,
what fascinates me is that like middle burger bun. Like, did they specifically just bake the bun that it doesn't have either sides? It doesn't have a top or a bottom. It's just like a slice of bread. That throws me off.
The whole industry, man.
I know. If they got rid of that, let's say, because like there's a lot of cutbacks right now. You've got the economy, you've got inflation, right? And they got rid of that, you could wipe out like a whole lot of jobs, man. There might be a bakery that does only the middle bun on like these double-decker
this burgers. Conversation has wiped out half of our listenership.
It probably has. Well, speaking of wipeouts, you do anything fun and exciting? Because if people see me, like, look at me close enough here from the solar eclipse, we actually got like the warmest weather. Yeah, I actually got like sunburn, but only like on part of my arm and like a farmer's tan up here. And it is just like, I got to even this out. But I live in Ohio where we don't normally, I'll say that instead of normally, get sun. There's just clouds everywhere right now, but we had a very great view. I was in the spot of 4 minutes of 100% totality where it was completely dark. So that was pretty neat. And for folks, if you weren't around, didn't catch it or anything, there's videos everywhere, but the Acrisure Stadium time lapse was pretty cool. If you got to catch those videos too, that's out on the X. If you want to check it out.
So I was out doing a 22-mile bike ride. And I can tell you quite honestly, I didn't see crap. Now, I come to find out after I get back home and look at because I got my sunglasses on, which means I can't actually look at my phone screen because the glare and I just can't see what it is. So I'm trying to take pictures. I don't know what I'm taking pictures of, right? And I'm just snapping pictures of the sky. I don't know what the hell I got a picture of. All I know is if I look up, I can't see crap, right?
But you're not supposed to. You're supposed to have the eclipse glasses or you're going to burn your retinas out.
Yeah, I'm from the old day, right? We didn't have no special glasses. We went outside and did this.
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't really look at the sun. Don't look at the sun. I don't want us to get in trouble. Don't look at the sun. Even when it's not an eclipse, don't look at the sun. It's not a good idea. Anyway, I get home and I'm going through the camera and I find out I actually do have pictures of the eclipse. Not the totality. We didn't get the whole thing out here, but whatever we got, I got pictures of. And it's nice to know that I saw it without actually seeing it.
That's kind of funny. Well, I was part of a to-do. The Neil Armstrong Museum is out about an hour or so from where I live. So went over to Wapakoneta, which is, try saying that 3 times fast. And it was a decent crowd up there, but it was never they were, everybody was talking about doomsday apocalypse types. They better buy water, gasoline. There's gonna be hundreds of thousands of people. Nah, it was nothing. So
let me just tell you, it is the end times. And I'm going to tell you why it's the end times. We had an earthquake in New Jersey. I'm sitting here at my desk watching my monitors all shake because we had an earthquake that was 4.8 on the Richter scale in New Jersey. And then we have an eclipse. It's the end days. It is the end days.
I always wonder what olden time folks actually thought of that type of stuff. But they think the world's ending or whatever, but it was cool. You could look at the sun, Brian, even if it was 99% totality, it wasn't completely covered, because otherwise it looked like some people were saying it looks like a wedding ring, a diamond ring, when you have it fully, the moon in place with your angle and whatnot, right? That's the only time you can really look up without the glass. Otherwise, no, you're burning your eyes out. But anyways, let's segue over to our topic of today before we get ourselves into too much trouble. We'll do this. Yeah, whatever. We'll be here all week, folks. Don't forget to tip your server. Try the veal. Boom, boom, boom. So, yeah. Anyways, we usually mock the mock drafts. People will be mocking us for the start of this show. There's a lot of cool things going on. What can you say? Solar eclipse. That's not going to happen again in our lifetimes. 20, at least in this area. You got to fly to Italy or something to see the next one. I don't know. South America, whatever. But
I think the next time I have a chance, I would be 82, which means I'll probably be dead.
Yeah, I was fairly accurate. I was doing the maths. I was adding it up. I'm like, yeah, that's probably not going to happen. I'd be 100 and some years old. Even the kids were doing that. I was like, you guys might not be here either. So, very grave thing to think of. But anyways, we're in a... It's almost been a holding pattern. There are this is such a weird year for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the NFL draft, because typically some years we're oh, there's a great position to need. They're going to hone in. Boom. Maybe they'll trade up, get one of the Devin White, Devin Bush. They need an inside linebacker. Oh, they need definitely need a corner, definitely need a quarterback, need a running back, Najee Harris, Kenny Pickett. You knew these guys were going to be the picks. You get surprised sometimes. You get some players that have fallen in the draft. Bud Dupree, David DeCastro. Maybe they go with the best player available scenario. So it's kind of been... it's not always been so all over the place, but this year is it's not necessarily all over the place, but it's at least half of the position groups on this roster that we can point a finger at and go, okay, they could use somebody there. They could draft somebody in this spot. Then there's another group that you're just nope, they're not going to draft somebody at all in those spots. I mean, some of the great disqualifiers as we go to mock draft, Steelers picking 4 picks in the top 100. I think we should give Omar Khan some credit with some of the wheeling and dealing that he's done. He has positioned them a first rounder, pick 20 overall, second rounder, 51st pick overall, and then picks 84 and 98 in the third round. And then that fourth round pick at 119 also looks very interesting before they don't pick again. With the last 2 picks, both in the 6th round, 119, or I'm sorry, not 119, 178 and 195.
I'm not impressed.
So, with what?
I'm not impressed. He should be doing what I do. I'll end up with 14 picks in the first round and everybody's picks for next year. I'm not impressed.
Yeah. So basically you'd be the Houston Texans.
Yes.
So that's what they're doing right now, or the Cardinals. And the Cardinals could trade out of there again, but at some point you actually got to try and make your team good, I think, and they failed to do that. So anyway, Steelers, it's interesting because there are positions they are definitely invested in. If you take a look at some of the players that they've had on visits, so far they've had unofficial visits, and 3 of them have been counted as local visits. So I'm counting 27 or 28 players, depends if you want to throw one more. There's one that's kind of have said that he's visited, but don't know if he visited, but would still be a local visit. And that's center Zach Frazier out of West Virginia. Okay. There's some rumblings because somebody asked, and I think he said he did, or some agent or somebody, who knows. But you've got 6 wide receivers of various degrees of where they could be drafted. You have 4 offensive tackles with 2 additional offensive linemen who are position flexible type players, right? And then there are, let's see, at least 2 defensive tackles with 4 other defensive linemen. So basically in the Steelers scheme, we'll put all of them together and just say 6 defensive linemen that are also on various sliding scales depending on whose rankings that you want to look at, and another 6 cornerbacks. Of course, I think 2 of those or 3 of those look like they are day 3 type guys, but then the other ones are like in day, the first maybe first 50 picks, first 75 pick type targets. So we already looked at, Brian, last week, you and I particularly, offensive linemen, centers and tackles. And that'll come up very heavily in this theme as we look at trying to mock the mock drafts or make fun of them. There are some that are out there. Oh, and of course, 1 quarterback and 1 running back. Now, the running back was Dylan Johnson out of Washington, and then his teammate quarterback, Michael Penix Jr. Penix, he's all over the board, too, as to where he could go. I'd be very shocked if the Steelers went there. Oh, yeah.
We get him the very last pick, according to PFF.
All those drafts. So, we've run, actually, what we should have did was maybe I'll pop one of these up and just let it run an auto simulation. We'll look at is Draft Network still around? Like some of these ones were like, they use different big boards. Yeah, I know. It's just all over the place, too. And then they cap you on how many times you can run them per day, and they're all over the place now. So I
just use PFF because it's the dumbest one.
Yeah, and it helps you. We will do the mock draft insanity, folks, at some point.
And I got to tell you this is my new favorite thing. They've added AI to the PFF draft simulator.
Is it not AI to begin with?
Well, but they've added a little coaching tip at the top, right? So after you make your picks, it'll yell at you when it thinks that you should have done something better. So, for example, it yelled at me because one of the ones I did this morning, I didn't take J.J. McCarthy in the first round. Why? Because it let me take him in the 3rd round. So don't yell at me that I couldn't take it in the 1st round when you're letting me take him in the 3rd round. You're stupid tips.
Yeah, and the other good part on that too is like when you would end up getting an A if you took them in the 1st, but you get a C if you take them in the 3rd because there were better fits for your team needs available. So, all right, I'm going to try and figure out where to begin. I think CBS Sports is a good place because they have like a bajillion, like that's the literal number, a bajillion. I've always got to like shut off their video when I bring it up. So let me see. Can I make this larger on screen for the folks watching over on YouTube? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. We have Ryan Wilson and Chris Trapasso at the very top. And of course, we've got the usual suspects, not for the Steelers, but, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, J.J. McCarthy, 3rd overall there, Brian, to the Patriots. Hey. Drake May. You've got wide receivers. There's that general argument is it Marvin Harrison Jr. or Malik Neighbors? And I think you get a great player no matter which way you go there. Neither of which will be near the Steelers pick where they could sniff at these players. But I have to think, if you think of Bloodline's generational talent, if you pass on Marvin Harrison Jr., that could come back to bite you in the ass, is my opinion. So I kind of chuckle. But then again, J.J. McCarthy here, 5th to the Vikings. There's trades, Drake May, and then Harrison and Neighbors. So they're all gone in like the top 6, and then they start to go. There's just some arguments there, which teams pick which player at the position of need at the top of those drafts. So as we continue to drop down through here, it does get interesting because you'll have some players like this, J.C. Latham, Thales Fuaga. You got guys that can play either side of tackles. You got some dedicated left tackles. You got some dedicated right tackles. And there's all kind of arguments as to, okay, the Chargers, they need an offensive lineman, as you see here. You get all kind of trades. Some of these other names you'll see bouncing around like Amarius Mims out of Georgia, Mountain of a Man. There's Troy Fontenot down to the Seahawks at 16. But we get down to the actual Steelers here. And there's also like the Bengals picks are all over the board here too, because you can see Brock Bowers. They take a tight end on the one mock draft here. Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver, who we'll see probably mocked to the Steelers somewhere in one of these drafts. These players are all over the board. The Bengals could play spoiler for some of the Steelers picks. But we see on these first 2 drafts, Thales Fuaga Oregon State offensive tackle. And then Quinyon Mitchell, cornerback out of Toledo. Both juniors coming out early, going to the Steelers with pick 20. I don't know about Mitchell. I don't know about a MAC corner going to the Steelers at pick 20 over when you look at what else is available. You start looking at who comes off the board after in some of these mocks, like Jackson Powers Johnson. Both of these guys have them going to the Dolphins right after. We talked about whether that Aaron Brewer that the Dolphins signed from the Titans, whether he would be playing center. He plays guard as well. Will they go after a center? Connor McGovern's still sitting around out there recovering from an injured knee. Will he come back to that team? Will somebody else sign him? Will he be ready for the season? So, I mean, the Dolphins need help on their line anyways, but it's like the guys that you end up passing for, like they have Fuaga, for example. I think this was Ryan Wilson's going at 20, but Amarius Mims going at 24. And for me, and we were talking about this, Mims, and Grant Barton going at 26, and some of these guys, even J.C. Latham, if you take a look here, Latham then is all the way down here at 27. So some of these kind of bounce around all over the place, and there's very many more CBS guys that we're going to hammer out here. But this is one of those cases where you're like, would the Steelers jump on one of these guys over one of the guys that are going after second? And one last thought, Brian. Before we started the show, what did we say? There's like 60 or 70 guys with first round grades. So it makes it impossible to say who will be a first rounder.
Yeah. I just do not see them putting another first round pick or a first round pick period into a cornerback right now. The cornerback room is not as bad as some folks think it is at the moment. Do they need another corner? Yes, but they also have a corner. I know he was a 7th round pick that they don't know what they've got with, right? But I just don't I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. I'm very, very sure tackle or center is going to be the first round pick. That's what I believe. I'm pretty sure that the 2nd round pick will be whatever wasn't picked in the 1st round or a wide receiver, and the 3rd will be whatever's left. That's what I look at the top 3 picks is going to be. Tackle, center, wide receiver. Not necessarily in that order. Somewhere in that order. A cornerback could slide into that argument in my mind, maybe in the 2nd round, but I would look more in the 3rd. It's a pretty deep corner draft. And it's because it's just not the same level of need as some of the other positions that they have. But, the right guy falls, who knows? The guy that they never, ever thought would be at 20 falls down to 20 and is one of the top corners. Maybe. I don't buy it.
Yeah, and it depends. You've got some guys that are position flexible here. I believe Mims is someone that can play on both sides. Fuaga. You got to be careful with who I say now. You got these names, Fuaga and Fontenot. Fuaga, yep. Right tackle, Fontenot, left tackle. And very highly ranked depending on where you're looking at the various mock drafts. Do you move Broderick Jones back to the left? You moved up to draft him, to have a tackle. Presumably, would you bookend? Or are you going to go with somebody are you going to go with the center? Are you going to anchor down the middle and then wait on a tackle? And one of these guys that's primarily probably stuck into a right tackle, we talked about this on the last show, might slide a little further when you're talking about it's not that right tackle isn't in demand, but it's not maybe in as much of demand as grabbing a left tackle. You wait till the 2nd round, it's probably going to be the 5th or 6th left tackle at best that might be left on the board, however you may rank them. So as I continue to scroll down, let me see here. Josh Edwards, Tom Fornelli. Now, most of these are within the last week. I tried to get some that were a little current. All of your usual suspects at the top. Start going down. You're going to see some of these other names like Fuaga already 10th to the Jets, Latham 11th to the Chargers. And you get down to the Steelers, and the Steelers trade out of their pick with the Cardinals in the 1 draft. So we're going to have to wait, Brian, before they're back on the clock. On Fornelli's, you got Jackson Powers Johnson, so he's the first one that is putting him right there. Now, very interesting is like right after this picks, the Dolphins go after Nate Wiggins, who has had a top 30 visit with the Pittsburgh Steelers. It could very well be on their radar right there as well. We've just noted that Jackson Powers Johnson, we've been talking about him all summer or all spring, basically, all off season. has not had a top 30 visit with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that's a distinction there. So let's see. Let's roll down a little further. Steelers go all the way down to 27th with that trade with the Cardinals. They get Ladd McConkey, wide receiver, Georgia. Interesting. I would have to see what they actually would get.
Yeah, exactly. What else did they get?
And I don't believe it actually, let's see, mock trade. Let's see. Oh, this is interesting. I like this. There's a little bit of analysis here. Steelers fans will probably not be fans of the team's decision to trade out of the opportunity to select one of the perceived top interior offensive linemen, but they still address a position of need while adding draft resources in the process. Well, tell us what we're getting. It doesn't say. It just tells you a little bit more about excuse me.
Well, then
McConkey.
This is dumb then. If you're not going to tell us what we got, it's dumb.
They're comping. I mean, obviously, they're comping McConkey over to Emmanuel Sanders, and another major Power 5 school here, Georgia product, two-time national champion, second-team All-SEC just the year before, 4.39 as far as his 40-yard dash. I'm not going to get into all the numbers. Me and Flash will be hitting on a lot of these guys. Yeah. This is what's interesting, though, as I look right after. Who lands right after pick 28 to the Buffalo Bills? Someone that they did meet with, AD or Adonai Mitchell, who is a beast of a guy. I believe Mitchell is one of the big guns here, right? Let me see. I just clicked on.
If I'm not mistaken, he's the one that they comp to George Pickens.
I believe so. They're pretty much almost like clones of each other. Now, this is why I hate these draft things. It's like, okay, let me see their size. Where's their size? Where's their whatever? It's like, it's not here. Okay, he had 11 TDs last year. Big whoop. So I'll have to come back around. But I believe I got this somewhere here, dude. I actually am somewhat prepared.
Unacceptable.
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 Mitchell,
You're prepared. Start over again.
The
whole show. We got to start over and be unprepared.
Yeah, Mitchell, 6'4", but 196. So he's a very lean guy, but big guy, fast guy. Let's see. I just had his 40 time here too, I believe. But last year, was his real pop off the page year, 845 yards, 55 receptions. But he's probably going to be, I think he's one of those top 50 type picks. It's going to be interesting. We don't know yet who's going in the green room, but that might be one of the names that do. We see him in the Western Kentucky receiver pop up a lot on some of these as well. Yep. Malachi Corley. So, excuse me, my friend. Let me get back to CBS Sports here and doing some more. We're down to Kyle Stackpole and Pete Prisco. Pete Prisco is always an interesting mock draft. Let's see what we've got here.
That other guy's a pole.
Yeah, that literally is his name. Rolling on down, Jackson Powers Johnson, Oregon, Troy Fontenot, Washington. So
it's so disappointing this year that I do not have enough of these to make fun of. Nobody is doing something incredibly dumb.
I mean, not incredibly dumb. I do think some of the other tackles, I'm just going on by Mike Tomlin, right?
Yep.
Everybody's going to be like 6'4" or something like that. That's us offensive lineman. 317. He's going after the guy. If you see somebody that's like 6'7", 340, Mike Tomlin is just like all over that. You know what I mean? Like a fly on you know what.
You know what you're telling me? You're telling me that he likes big butts, and you cannot lie.
He does like big butts. Now, here's the problem with Fontenot. Left tackle. So you're going to leave Broderick Jones on the right. So
I don't believe, unless the person they draft is dramatically superior to Broderick Jones, I don't buy that.
Yeah, I'm not on that one either. I'm going to go bounce back around here for a second just to the tackles, because going through the sizes, like Fuaga, 6'6", 334, Fontenot, 6'4", 317. The guy from Penn State, they really haven't given him like any.
Is that the old guy? Ole, wale.
That's why I said the guy from Penn State.
Yeah. Ole, mula, wala, bula, bala. I can't say anybody's name, so I'm not disrespecting the fine young man from Penn State. I just can't say people's names.
Olamaya Fashanu.
Yeah, forget it.
That's why I'm screwed up with this. Fuaga Fontenot Fashanu. And then you've got J.C. Latham, 6'6", 335, and Amaris Mims out of Georgia, 6'7", 340.
Wouldn't it be the most unusual set of circumstances if they take Mims in the first and Cedric Van Pran in the third, and you essentially have 3/5 of Georgia's offensive line?
But you know what they were talking about with the Eagles for however many years, and Howie Roseman, and they're all Georgia Bulldogs there, right? And I mean, how can you blame them? They've been getting, how many guys have probably been drafted out of Georgia? Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, all your big schools there filling out those rounds. And don't forget, I mean, the reason I bring up the Eagles is because Andy Weidel, assistant general manager now with the Pittsburgh Steelers, might have a lot of those same philosophies in helping to build out this roster. So let us continue here on down the road. Do I have anybody else out of CBS Sports? I do not right now. I can finally close one of my I have so many tabs open from these mock drafts. Let's take a look at, I guess, sporting news. Who is this guy? Vinny Iyer. I'd say if I was famous and this show were famous, I'd make him famous, but he just gets like a mention. Vinny, what do you got here for us? Lots of ads and things in the middle of this. Who? Vinny what? Iyer? Aver?
Yeah, is he your cousin? Your cousin Vinny?
No, he isn't. He's not my cousin Vinny. Is none of the above. So at least it should warm your cockles here, Brian, to see Joe Alt going in the top 10 in most of these mock drafts, at least, and not falling into like the 6th round or wherever you were snagging him with your mock draft insanity. Folks, if you're not familiar with this, you got to check this out. We'll probably be doing this the week leading up to the draft. Brian basically recreates the movie Draft Day live on a podcast, but it's crazier than that. Like, he keeps all the picks that Kevin Costner ended up giving away in the movie, and then reuses them and ends up with a draft haul, like we said. It's very similar to the Houston Texans and what they did to the Cleveland Browns, real life draft day. So,
yes.
Anyways, let me commence with the long scroll down to the Steelers pick somewhere here, and there we go, Mims from Georgia. So. And there we go. And then also noted that Mims is capable of playing position versatile either side. So that's pretty interesting. The Toledo corner ends up going again, though. Like, I know, like 6 foot, 195. I don't know, man. I'm not seeing it. I mean, I would have been all over that if it was Kevin Colbert still as the Steelers GM. But I don't see any smoke to that fire just yet. And there's some other players that are going to pop up within these particular drafts. I think there's one. Well, here's one right here. I was just about to mention Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma, and Daniel Jeremiah over on NFL Network ended up making this particular pick. And I don't know. I don't find it as exciting. I don't find it as exciting as Mims for me would probably be the guy. It's like last year. It was like we knew Paris Johnson wasn't going to be around. For me, I think Mims is like somebody that's in that landing spot that I'd be like, okay, I'm totally cool with this. I remember last year I was saying the same thing. We were talking about one of the Tennessee tackles, but then we were like, oh, he's primarily like a right tackle. He's primarily like a left tackle. I think Guyton falls into this category of primarily playing on the left, but let me double check his snap counts here, Brian.
Yeah, to be honest, this is more of a reach in my view. I don't think he goes this early. I think this is a guy that could be had in the 2nd round. To me, it's a reach to take him in the 1st.
Primarily right tackle, so only right tackle, and you're probably right. Just based on that alone, primarily a 2-year starter with Oklahoma, so not a 3-year player, and not anybody that's really had any significant time at the collegiate level playing any of the other positions. So when you're talking about the kid from Duke, that's somebody that's like going to be very interesting. And it's like if the Steelers were to draft him, if Barton is where he's at, does he play tackle? Does he play center? Probably play center for the Steelers. Somebody else, he just plays on the interior of the line, kicks into be a guard. There's a lot of talk too when you look at some of these mock drafts, the way they justify some of the picks. They say, well, they're trying to shake this out. Let's talk about the Dolphins, for example. Let's just throw that out there. They need help. Well, we'll see how this shakes out because this guy could play center, or somebody could play guard, maybe kick out the tackle. They were talking about that with the Cowboys too because they need some help. They lost Biotish as their starting center, so that's somebody the Steelers are competing with for that position. So you have like a guard that they're talking about, well, there's a guard that's existing already on the roster. They could just kick him, move him out the tackle, but that doesn't always work in reality. And if you're trying to figure that out during training camp, I think you're cooked. So you got to have those plans in place now and know which way you want to go. And you that's how you shoehorn guys into certain spots and they stick where they stick.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I agree.
Yeah, I'm looking for our next one. I did, this was a very nicely designed website, by the way. It's The Ringer. And just kind of scrolling through all this stuff. This was a mock draft by The Ringer. This one,
Too much green.
Yeah, it has pretty pictures. Everybody,
too much green.
You got photos of everybody. It's pretty cool. There you go. There's the Toledo corner at 8 to the Atlanta Falcons, which I don't know, man. It's difficult trying to peg who the top. You know, like Witherspoon was the top guy last year, without a doubt. And then you had a couple of guys like Christian Gonzalez and that, and you're trying to figure out where Joey Porter was going to go. I don't know who the top corners are necessarily with this class.
No. There's a lot of good corners, but there's not a. I mean, some people say Dijon, some people will say a couple other guys. They're just. I don't think they're hands above each other, right? There's a big group that are all very, very much similar in their quality, I think.
Okay, so we got Fuaga gone already at 11, Latham gone at 13. Mims gone at 16.
Yeah.
Foshnow, the Penn State guy, I can't say his name, to the Bengals. This is what we're talking about.
Going on in this guy's draft.
Yep. So the Steelers land the other LSU wide receiver, Brian Thomas Jr., as part of this 6'4", 205 with the 20th overall pick. That messes with you because, I feel like that's not a bad pick, but I feel like that's like pick 51 maybe if you could get him there.
If you can get him there, I don't think he'll drop that far.
Not that far, but at 20,
it's not an outlandish pick. I just think this is one of those ones where PFF would be like, he has a higher positional value than the other people on the board. Are you going to take a wide receiver? How are they going to throw to him if they've got nobody stopping the rush?
Exactly.
How are they going to throw to him if there's nobody to snap the ball to the quarterback? I don't know. I feel like this is me, right? Because I'm insane. And it happens all the time when I'm doing my mocks. If one of the top 3 drops, if Marvin Harrison is for some reason sitting there at 20, if that guy from Washington named Rome is there at 20, if the other guy Neighbors is there at 20, forget it. Then I go. Then it's like, okay, it's beyond a luxury pick at this point. I don't have a choice pick because everybody else is dumb, right? But I don't know if Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah, well, and it gets interesting. That's why I like to look who goes after in these mocks too. So I would tend to think that maybe Fontenot, Cooper DeJean is there, Jackson Powers Johnson,
APJ.
Graham Barton. Yeah.
See, I don't buy that we take that wide receiver as Donnie Mitchell. Yeah.
Yeah, Mitchell's there still too. I mean, you get to some of these guys.
I won't mock it with the same vehemence I have mocked mock drafts in the past because there's at least some legitimacy to it, right? And if the guy really loves Brian, whatever his name is, Brian Thomas Jr., maybe he thinks he's better. To me, if you've got Barton and JPJ and a tackle all there, you're taking one of those 3.
Well, okay. So let me throw this out here. How much weight or how much stock do you put into the draft visits, the top 30 visits? I put quite a bit into it with the Steelers.
I don't even know how to think about it anymore, right? Everything is so topsy-turvy this year with the way that they're operating. Omar Khan just does totally different things, and he is not. Like, I can't trust the history of the draft and the history of the process because it's just not the same. There's never been an offseason like this offseason where, we're going out and getting quarterbacks left and right and we're doing all that. I don't know. If this was Kevin Colbert, if this was even the year before, I would go, oh, yeah, no, they're not going to talk. They're not drafting JPJ. They don't like him that much. They didn't do a visit. I don't know. It could all be a smoke screen. I don't know what the hell they're doing anymore.
No, I think it was pretty well known that they were conflicted on what to do with that 30-second pick and whether or not they should bring Porter home right then and there or gamble. There was definitely, the phone was ringing overnight. That's such a cool spot to be in. I don't think as a fan for the Steelers, we've ever been in a position with them picking like that at the very beginning of the draft. You know what I mean?
Thank you, Chase Claypool.
Yeah, you had to. Yeah, I know, right?
Gift that keeps giving.
And you were waiting the whole next day. But of the wide receiver visits, the top guys, because of course there's Taj Washington, USC, and Luke McCaffrey from Rice. And I say Luke McCaffrey is just like that screams Mike Tomlin right there. Bloodlines, family history, somebody that they could snag, maybe even. See, they got these 6th round picks, but yeah, you still got the 4th round for day 3, and they're picking early enough there. But Mitchell out of Texas, he's been on an official visit. Malachi Corley, we mentioned. Western Kentucky's been on a visit. Xavier Leggett out of South Carolina and Ricky Pearsall out of Florida. Those are all of the guys. Those 4 are like top 50 kind of projected players that the Steelers could be looking at. Brian Thomas is not on that list right now. So makes it tough. Makes it tough. So we can mock that one. Do you want to mock? Hold on a second. I thought I had a Pro Football Focus one. And we've probably got a bunch of different ones we can look at because they have like a whole. Oh, I don't want to make fun of Trevor Sakema. He's pretty good. Yeah, I don't want to make fun of him, but he does a lot of these. Some of them are a little older. I think let's see, what is this? Market Implied 2024 NFL Mock Draft. Okay, let's take a look at this one. Because it's just like you and I, people like float around the web and they find these things, right? So I'm going to see Caleb Williams. Yeah, here we go. Sign up for this.
See, that's prettier than the one with all the dumb green. This is at least,
it looks like, it reminds me of Topps trading cards, like some baseball cards. That's nice.
It's nice. I prefer this.
We're giving PFF their flowers.
Yeah. They can buy their own flowers and screw them. I don't care.
JJ McCarthy 4th overall. I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about him as a pro quarterback, to be completely honest. So
I don't know.
Yep. And this is an odd year. Like, we're not even talking about Dallas Turner. He's like not even a top 5 consideration. You know what I mean? Like, normally an edge rusher would be right up there. Now, he's still in the top 10 in most of these. Now, Roma Odunze, he's still in here. There we go. Fuaga, Jets, after another tackle. Brian Thomas at pick 11, Brian Thomas, pick 11. And we were just talking about, not at 20. Lato from UCLA, another one that's around here. Oh, let's see. Fashionow going to Olu.
See, there you go. I can say that name.
I can say that.
Forget the rest of the name. He's Olu from now on.
Mitchell. So a lot of the usual suspects. Troy Fontenot going again to the Seahawks. Wiggins now climbs up ahead of the Steelers on this one. Bowers to the Bengals. There's been a lot of smoke with that because Joe Burrow has not had a tight end. Yeah. And then, of course, I just flipped off of it, but Mims to the Steelers and Powers Johnson right after to the Dolphins. So if the Steelers don't take Powers Johnson, I think the Dolphins or the Dallas Cowboys are definitely going to be in the market for him, and then they'll have to wait until round 2. That's not the worst thing in the world. Cowboys, this would be a Jerry Jones pick too. Bring home the Texas guy over to Jerry's world. Grab another wide receiver. A.D. Mitchell, Graham Barton. There's a lot of smoke to this one with him to the Packers too, and whether or not, depending on where he's going to play, a lot of people have him pegged for a guard. That's what Pro Football Focus has him right here. This is the one that's going to get you, Brian. This will piss you off on draft day, but pick 27 Arizona Cardinals, Zach Frazier from West Virginia, also off the board. Barton would be off the board. Jackson Powers Johnson also off the board before the first round's completely finished.
And that, look, I don't like to be in cahoots with PFF. You know that. And I do think that's high for Zach Frazier. I don't think he goes in the first round. But that's the thing that could happen. I keep saying there are center needy teams out there, and that's why I don't know that you get one of the supposed top 3 guys unless you take them at 20. So I think this is full of crap, to be honest with you. I don't think he's going to go that high, but I just don't know whether he's going to last at 51.
Yeah, and just to finish off the rest of this, J.C. Latham to the Ravens, and Ladd McConkey, and then Xavier Worthy. And it's interesting because this is a point I wanted to bring up. McConkey to the 49ers. There's a footnote here. It says, like, it seems like the 49ers and Brandon Ayuk are moving further apart in contract negotiations. This could be like that A.J. Brown type trade draft day. I don't know if we say it just on the back. I sometimes I forget what I say on the show versus the back rooms. I've had this discussion with the professor. I said, this could be where you hold out till that specific day. The guy that you want isn't there, or you feel isn't going to be there, or they're already gone and you're in the middle of the draft, and Omar Khan trades away something in 2025, gives up absolutely nothing in this upcoming draft, still gets the offensive lineman, goes out and gets a Brandon Ayuk to pair with George Pickens, and now you have your wide receiver you could throw to and the guys that are going to help. The guys are sitting in grandma's rocking chair waiting to throw the ball. We hope we can get rid of the ball a little faster or run the football, and you got to have offensive linemen to do those things. So
yep.
I'm on board with that being a possibility. Depends what Ayuk wants. You see some of these wide receivers creeping into, they want like $30 million a year, like Justin Jefferson. Yeah, they're asked that. Charlie Weiss was like, no way, not even for Jefferson. I think the only guy that's near that, or maybe right at it right now, is Tyreek Hill, and I still think that's a hill to die on. Pun intended, man. I don't want anything to do with a $30 million a year wide receiver. It got to be Randy Moss or Jerry Rice, and even then, that's
I still don't want
bitter pill to swallow. Yeah, you're tearing up so much of your cap. You're just your personnel, your ability to move around and add additional players around everyone. That's why this quarterback room is so important, being cheap. Just hopefully they don't get what they paid for. One we do usually poke some fun at most of the time, Walter Football. So in this website many times, oh my goodness, do I have to go to the next page? Yeah, I do, because it's built like in 1940s technology. Did they have the internet in 1940? I imagine this is what it would look like. Nate Wiggins is already gone. Fashnell from Olu from Penn State.
Olu.
Well, this one's not too shabby, Brian. They went with the rest of the consensus. Steelers signed Mason Cole recently, but he turned out to be a bust. When you sign a free agent, can they be a bust? Was he expected to be like a Pro Bowl player ever? I don't think so. It's just kind of like a stopgap. But they have the Oregon Center here, Powers Johnson. He's lined up, and that's what they say. Cole was recently cut. They'll be looking for a new center. So yeah, there's not much to complain about there. I want to see who else may have been.
There was a guy, there's one of the ESPN guys who usually does something dumb, but
I've got that coming. And in fact, you know what? That might be our next one, Brian. Let me see if I could find, was it Kuiper? There's somebody that agrees with you.
Well, Kuiper had him taking Brian Thomas Jr., didn't he?
No, that was Daniel Jeremiah, I think. We did not do Kuiper yet. Field Yates, who does work with ESPN as well, one of the ESPN insiders. You get to start scrolling down. I'm not sure if he made some trades. Yeah, Vikings. Almost everybody's pretty much anticipating that. Latham, you see, going 11th to Broncos. Here's another one that pops up a lot. Bo Nix, 12th, pick 12, Denver Broncos. That's an interesting team to take a look at. I'm going to make this a little bigger on the screen. Fuaga to the Raiders, Fashnell, again, Ole to the Saints. We're not saying he's not capable or whatever. We just don't think there's any smoke to the fire that the Steelers are interested. The Colts grab Mitchell out of Toledo, the corner. Seahawks go with Fontenot, so they get yet an offensive line. It seems like they could grab any offensive lineman, according to the various mocks you look at. Brian Thomas, this time, though, goes to the Bengals. So that's interesting in and of itself. Will they trade T. Higgins? Tyler Boyd's floating around out there in space. And as far as we've heard, of course, he ain't going nowhere until the draft's over. In fact, he probably won't be signed until officially like a June 1st thing or something like that. That won't impact anyone's compensatory picks because he probably wants too much money, too long-term of a deal, and nobody's willing to give that up right now when they look and think that this draft is full of talented wide receivers. So Field Yates is given your Duke guy to the Pittsburgh Steelers and as a center. And it's kind of funny. I like what Yates says there. He goes, although wide receiver was a thought here after the Steelers traded Deontay Johnson, Pittsburgh's history of finding talented wideouts beyond the first round and the position's depth in this class made me go another direction. Barton is among the most versatile linemen available. Having played left tackle his final 3 seasons at Duke after playing center as a true freshman, I view him as an interior player in the NFL and a center for the Steelers as he's arguably the most impressive run blocker in the class. His versatility, core, power, and handwork all stood out to me while watching tape. There you go. There's another reason. Yates makes a pretty good point here, not just with being able to find wide receiver, but the Steelers traded for a corner. They went out and got Dante Jackson. Now, this is one of those things where, okay, the Steelers have a veteran to play opposite Joey Porter Jr. They're probably not going to play whoever is drafted, if they do draft a corner, right out the gate. And more than likely, even the first-round pick, as we saw, Porter did not play over Levi Wallace or Patrick Peterson either last year. So if they like Jackson enough, I mean, it's not to say that they won't go their first round, but this is going to be one of those years where they pick up a veteran and draft someone, and maybe outside of the first round.
I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah, so Field Yates is right with you. Just some of the players he had going after the Steelers. Nate Wiggins from Clemson, we mentioned. Mitchell, the wide receiver from Texas. Mims to the 49ers. I feel like everything the 49ers do is just going to be like interesting. Guyton to the Packers. And let's see. I'm always interested in seeing what they do with the BYU tackle. We have not talked about Kingsley Suamataia. I sound like what's his name from The Office. So I can't say
okay.
Can't say anybody's name, man. So
I know.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. I think I had someone else from ESPN. I don't know that Kuiper has. He doesn't do as many mock drafts as he does talking around. Now, Mike Tannenbaum, who also does the 30, I believe he's part of the 33 team.
Kuiper always puts his behind a paywall, and you have to wait for somebody else to get it.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have showed Yates's either. It was behind a paywall. I've got the paywall. So, but we have Mike Tannenbaum here, former executive in the NFL. He has Latham going to the Tennessee Titans pretty high, pick 7. Marvin Harrison Jr. falls to 9 to the Bears. Some of these, I think.
Trade up and get him. Trade.
Yeah. So, I mean, everyone's just trying to take an educated guess. It's another Bo Nix to the Broncos at 12. Okay, so Fuaga's out. Dunzier's out. Terrion Arnold, corner from Alabama, opposite Kool-Aid McKinstry. McKinstry's usually later first round, early second round from some of these that I see. I haven't seen the Steelers really show much interest in either of those two Bama corners at all during this offseason process. So, okay, so we get down to, we're getting near the Steelers pick. Fontenot playing on the interior. Brian Thomas to the Jaguars. Mims, this is the heartbreaker, man. Mims goes 2 picks ahead and goes to the Bengals, and Michael Penix goes to the Rams, and you could just hear the collective Twitterverse lose their minds. So who falls to the Steelers? They get A.D. Mitchell out of Texas, and I wouldn't be too pissed off about that, but you also left Jackson Powers Johnson on the board right after that. And then, of course, Brock Bowers. Oh, let's see, Byron Murphy. It's a lot of the same usual names, and I like to go Lad McConkey, Xavier Worthy, Latu. Wow, all the way down to 29 to the Lions. Wouldn't that be something? The pair with, what's his name from Michigan up there? Braden Fisk, defensive tackle, Florida State, has been on the radar of official visits for the Pittsburgh Steelers, 31 to the San Francisco 49ers. So, yeah, those are some interesting ones. Let me see. Who else? Who else can we pick on here? I was trying to see. I already had Tannenbaums. 10 days ago. Well, rankings for the top 2024 NFL draft. That was Mel Kiper. Let's see if I got one more in us. We got Matt Miller. Matt Miller could be an entertaining one as well. Matt Miller's got several that are over here on the ESPN Plus. So let's see what Matt Miller may have picked out here. Oh, and Bill Barnwell. We got to do Bill Barnwell. Bill Barnwell is like a perennial let's make fun of when it comes to some of the picks. So, well, they're all talking about Field Yates.
The guy that I usually make fun of is on NFL Network. That's who he is. He's one of the NFL Network.
Well, yeah, but Mike Mayock was the guy to really make fun of. Okay, we're going to go with Matt Miller. This one's just a little over. This one's back at the end of March. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, top overall. We got the trade, Drake May, the Vikings. And then the Broncos also with J.J. McCarthy, 4th overall. Marvin Harrison doesn't go until 5. Malik Neighbors goes right after him. Joe Alt, Dallas Turner, Roma Duncie. So three wide receivers in the top 10. Brock Bowers, tight end from Georgia, rounds that out to the Jets. So pretty much all the offensive linemen are now at play. And this would be a dream scenario for the Pittsburgh Steelers, to be completely honest. Other than Alt, everybody else is still on the board. Fashionow, Penn State. He ends up going to the Patriots, who moved down. Brian Thomas, 12th to the Arizona Cardinals. So people don't really know his value. Bo Nix to the Raiders. Fuaga, he's in there too. Murphy, again, defensive tackle from Texas. We haven't talked about him a whole lot. But Fontenot, once again, the Washington product, going back to Washington, back in Seattle. Mitchell, the corner from Toledo. Arnold, the corner from Alabama. The defensive end, Jared Verse, Florida State to the Rams, 19. The Steelers on the clock, get Jackson Powers Johnson. So once again, not much that you can really say in terms of these.
Very disappointing.
I know, right? Latham, Wiggins after it, Cooper DeJean, Amaris Mims, Guyton. So Graham Barton is still out there. Mitchell to the Bills. I mean, it's all like, it could. I really feel like those names I said, those last 5 or 6 are in that pool of who they could be picking.
So here's what I find interesting. In the years where we had Kevin Colbert as a GM, these mock drafts were all over the place, right? They were doing the exact opposite of what you would actually expect Kevin Colbert to do. Kevin Colbert's more of a stay-in-place kind of guy, not going to move up, not going to move down. He's going to take the guy that's there at the time when he drafts. And they've got him doing all kinds of crazy crap, draft up and get a quarterback, draft over here. They've got him doing all kinds of nut stuff, right? Now you've got the con artist here, and here's what I think has happened. They're all like, we don't know what the hell he's going to do. We're just going to do a normal thing. We don't understand anything that's going on anymore. It was easy to pretend that Kevin Colbert was going to do this stuff because we knew for sure he wasn't gonna. So we could just make a bunch of crap up. With this guy, it could be true. I don't know.
I just thought it was funny that, you might get Field Yates was right there with you on Barton out of Duke. Now, I do have a Mel Kiper post free agency. This one was, let's see, what was the date on this particular draft? March 19th. So it's a little long in the tooth, and he may not have caught every single move that some of these other teams made, and that could definitely impact the pick that the Pittsburgh Steelers end up having. But once again, down at 20, Brian Thomas Jr.
That's the one
Brian.
I told you, yeah, see?
So, yeah. And just a few weeks ago at the NFL Combine, here's what Steelers General Manager Omar Khan said to reporters about Kenny Pickett. I have full faith in Kenny. A lot has changed since then. A lot has changed this whole offseason. So that he does, like a lot of the folks that do note that these quarterbacks need somebody to throw to. And the others are all noting, like you said, that they actually need time, or they need somebody to snap them the ball. They need somebody to be able to protect. And like, again, I can't phrase this enough. Justin Fields. Some people are like, oh, he's going to become a star. It's like, he's not even penciled in as the starter. Shut up with your mock draft. He's the backup right now. He's been told he was the backup. You got Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. These guys hold on to the ball forever. They take a lot of sacks. And you could say what you will. We know Seattle, and I have more of a struggle of a hard time saying Denver's had a bad line. They definitely had an offensive line that had pedigree with first round, second round, high picks. Maybe they didn't play up the potential. Denver's its own different mess, though. So you take the Steelers' offensive line, and you need 1 or 2 pieces to round this out. And you definitely need a center. Go back and check out our show from last week where we kind of hammer this out a little more. We talk about whether Dan Moore will end up retaining a spot on this roster. And I think that pretty much, I'm trying to see, we didn't really get through. We got one more set, Brian. We didn't get through the guys on NFL.com. Let's take a look at Rhett Lewis. And get this on the screen here. Of course, we've got video. Oh my goodness. I'd love to show people just how messed up this stuff looks. It's like, we got to have the autoplay video. Drake May, number 2 overall to the Commanders. Some interesting picks sometimes, like especially depending on where May, Daniels, McCarthy. I'm always interested in like where these guys are going. Neighbors or Harrison first, Adunzie, he's in the top 10 here to the Bears. So we're going to go down. The Broncos, they move up with the Jets to get J.J. McCarthy at 10th. And the Vikings are left holding the bag, but they don't take Michael Penix Jr. I find that interesting. So Latham's gone at 14. Fontenot, once again, to the Seahawks. Mitchell's gone. Bo Nix to the Vikings at 18. And the Steelers end up in this particular draft, Rhett Lewis getting the interior lineman / center / whatever you want to make him, Graham Barton. And that's your favorite guy. And this is noted by Rhett Lewis here. It says Barton gives Pittsburgh 5-position flexibility as a guy who played left tackle at Duke, but is also arguably the top center candidate in this draft. Can't argue with that, right?
What can I tell you? It's not just me.
No, it's not just you.
That makes me feel uncomfortable. It means I'm probably wrong.
Who isn't? If you want to see who's wrong, actually, and let me give a plug here for a second. It's one of our favorite people in all of the Steelers beat world as far as reporters. And whoever our friend Jim Wexel ends up picking. This is his book, On the Clock, Pittsburgh Steelers, the NFL Draft. I believe this was published last year, but this is a great page turner.
It is a great book.
Check this out. Yeah, Wex is one of the better reporters out there, but he doesn't nail his respected picks ever.
No. he messes up with my Wex knows hashtag around draft time. The rest of the year, it works great. Wex knows, he says stuff, it's wise, it's very knowledgeable, and I can do my Wex knows hashtag. Draft time is not so good.
Yeah, not so good. So Chad Reuter, let's see where Chad Reuter's got us. I'll save everyone from the scrolling. You want to mock this one? We were just talking about these Bama corners. Terry and Arnold, Alabama. Don't see it.
I don't buy it.
No, not when you have Fuaga right after and trade with the Dolphins. Man, this is an interesting. There's some trades here. Bo Nix is going in here. Jonathan Brooks, bunch of names we haven't mentioned. And this one's Fontenot's down here. Wiggins is down here. So Tyler Guyton. So I don't think Guyton was one of the ones that's on the Steelers' radar. In fact, I don't know if I mentioned the official visits.
We did. Somebody else had him picking him, remember? And I said I think he's a day 2 guy.
Yeah. So there's Fuaga, Fontenot, and Mims are the big 3 right there, as far as the tackles are concerned. And then they have like this interesting guy that plays a whole bunch of positions that's out of Oregon. I don't think he was even invited to the NFL draft. He's like maybe like late day or UDFA or whatever that's had a visit as well, and not a local one. But I believe it's somebody that they also coached up at the Senior Bowl. So something caught their eye there. That was kind of like one of the ones like what, and they also have a corner, Sean Stevens out of Ferris State, and he's actually gone on more than just one visit. I think the Eagles also hosted him too. So he's kind of like one of those sneaky picks that's floating around there as they're doing their due diligence and their homework. Who else do I got here? Well, Chad Reuter again. And these guys sometimes do more than they need to. I was trying to see if we had like a Maurice Jones-Drew, Lance Zierlein, and I always like looking for Eric Edholm and Charles Davis, and then Bucky Brooks. That was the last one.
That's the guy.
That's Bucky the last Brooks, one I was looking for.
Bucky Brooks is my go-to if I want to see something dumb.
Okay, well, MJD is pretty close to that too. I have
he's also up there on the list of just.
I've got these will round out the show here, folks. We got 5 more, allfromNFL.com if you want to check these out in their entirety. Let's go with Charles Davis, who I have. Charles Davis is incredible. Like he knows
Charles Davis.
Charles Davis is like the new. He's replaced like some guys like a Gil Brandt as far as encyclopedia of everybody that's on the field, knows every little town, every place that they've, every little town, every little college town, everything. Like, oh, this guy, he played high school, blah, 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 blah. It's a powerhouse, in like Northwestern, Rhode Island or something. Like, okay. Charles Davis, though, he gives the Steelers Jackson, Powers, Johnson. So right back in the same thing. Nothing you can really mock there. And I'm just looking, Fontenot, Wiggins, Kool-Aid, Zach Frazier once again in the first round. Brian Thomas though drops a little further down, and Fisk is up here into the first round as well. And Fisk has had, like I said, mentioned it. Mims at 32 to the Chiefs. So you've got a little bit of a sliding scale there. Lance Zierlein, another analyst for NFL NFL Network, NFL.com has picked Tellez Fuaga, the Oregon State tackle, and this is a primarily a right tackle pick, as we've mentioned. So right behind it, Wiggins, Barton, Guyton, Mims, some of these other guys, Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, falling down into the picks behind the Steelers. Eric Edholm, lead draft writer for the NFL.com website. Sorry, every time I keep talking, it's like a video pops up as I'm trying to scroll. It's very annoying. Also gives the Steelers the Oregon center, Jackson Powers Johnson. A lot of smoke to the fire, man. I don't know if they know. And again, all of your usual suspects. I'm going to leave it, but Graham Barton being right there behind, we shall see. So we've left it down to Maurice Jones-Drew and Bucky Brooks.
Come on, one of you guys, be an idiot.
Yes, come on. We need you. We're counting on you to make our mocking of the mocks mockable. Unfortunately, Brian, I don't think you're going to be able to pick on MJD. He gives us Mims out of Georgia, the massive tackle. Too much logic, too much sense.
Somebody
We're not supposed to
them
like
all in the
these.
head this year and said, "Stop being dumb."
You know what? I have not. And by the way, before this show started, I did not look at these ahead of time. It wasn't to not be prepared, but I wanted to have the same surprise kind of. I wanted a first reaction to these, so we didn't look at these ahead of time. But I want to take a stab and see if Bucky Brooks is going to be dumb enough to give the Steelers like an edge rusher or like a position that they don't need. Maybe a quarterback.
Quarterback.
I'm not
Michael
going to say
Jr.
I'm not going to say they don't need quarterback because we really don't know.
They're not drafting a quarterback.
I don't think not in the first round.
No.
Might have learned their lesson already on this one. Okay, so who's off the board already? Aside from the major quarterbacks, the Penn State tackle's gone. The Georgia tight end's gone. Let's see, Fuaga, Latham, Fontenot are all gone. The one Bama corner is gone, and the Toledo corner is gone. Brian Thomas is gone. Byron Murphy is gone. Aw, we can't mock him. Bucky Brooks has some sensibility to him too. He also gives Steelers Mims. I think he just cheated off of MJD's draft.
So, like, where I live, unlike the professor who lives for draft season because he enjoys it and he thrives in it and he loves the analysis and the thoughts. I just like to make fun of people who do dumb things. Nobody's doing any dumb things. It's very annoying.
I don't know, man. I'm trying to find them, but this year I would be pretty happy. I'm like Brian Thomas. Would I be that upset over Brian Thomas?
No, I'm not gonna be crushed. I don't think it's what they're gonna do, nor do I think they should. But if they did, I'm not gonna go, "Oh, this is the worst decision ever."
Yeah, let me see if there's anything else that we could find on here. But I don't actually think so. You get some that are like from other fan sites, like Buckswire, right? And let me see what they've got for the Steelers here. Of course, this is one of those pages that doesn't stop scrolling forever. And here we go. Nope.
Tommy Eichenberg from Ohio State, first round.
No, with the Steelers, with the pick 20 of the 2024 NFL draft, trying to get my Roger Goodell on. The Pittsburgh Steelers have traded their selection to the Los Angeles Chargers. So the Chargers are taking J.C. Latham there. So they have to be in cahoots with the Steelers and know that they do not want J.C. Latham as one of their tackles. And so begins the run on offensive tackles is what this website says.
Okay, and then where did they trade to?
I don't know, because the Bengals traded down and they still get Mims with the next pick. So Olu is down here to Penn State, down to the Eagles in the 20th. And here we go. Terrion Arnold, Alabama. They trade back and get a corner. Now, for all the more we said there's smoke. I really don't know. Because they don't say. They just, that's the problem.
You can't. See, this is lame. You can't make trades like this and not tell people what the compensation is, because then you can't evaluate whether it's a good trade or you're an idiot. All right, so they're idiots. There you go. That's my making fun of you. You're being dumb because you don't actually provide enough information.
So I didn't look to see if earlier in this same draft that the Chargers, if they traded back. And it doesn't look like it. They traded with like the Vikings. So they trade down and they have an extra first round pick for Minnesota. And then it looks like they use that one pick and then trade up with the Steelers. Now, in order to do that, let me see where this pick actually is. The Vikings have pick 23. And if you're looking at that old Jimmy Johnson value chart, that's 760, right? So the Steelers are at 850. They need something that's only got about 90 points to really move the needle here. So, Brian, it's probably not going to be any more than a fourth rounder, whether it's a 2024. It's out of the top. It's out of the top one, just out of the top 100 picks.
Take one of the tackles and stay put. Dumb. It's dumb.
Yep.
That's the dumbest one we've heard.
Yep. And that's just assuming. That's just assuming. So that's what they did with that, because people aren't as detailed as you. We're going to get the mock draft to sanity coming. And you're going to be coming hot and heavy here pretty soon. By the way,
just full transparency, it will be dumb. It's going to be extremely dumb.
Brian's going to draft 5 offensive linemen somehow. We've seen it happen before. So if you've never been around for that, folks, stay tuned. That's coming in about a week. Heading up into the draft. We're about 2 weeks out from the 2024 NFL draft. What day did I say that was dropping on, Brian? That is on Thursday, April 25th, right around the corner here. And we are planning, if all things go well, we will be live post-draft Thursday, potentially Friday as well. So mark that on your calendars. We know you like to hang out with us, make some live chatting, ask some questions. So unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of mocking of the mock drafts to do. The ones I can mock, I don't want to. Like, they're made in like January. You know what I mean? The NFL season wasn't even over. No, it's all entertainment. There's no reason to even look at these drafts there. But hopefully this gives you some perspective of the players that are available at Steelers pick, as they have the 20th overall pick in the draft. And I was trying to see, man, even Mark Caboli, I was hoping somebody that was an actual Steelers beat writer did one of these, but I can't find one. I cannot find one on here. So we're just going to leave it as is. I got one from November 17th, 2023. That's from PFF.
I bet it's not reasonable.
No, it's not at all. Cameron Kitchens, safety from Miami, Florida. And they gave the Steelers pick 23.
That's dumb. But I see, it's unfair to mock them, other than to say, why are you even trying to do a draft in the middle of the actual season that's going on? That part's the dumbest part of it. That is dumb.
Especially, that was right before the Steelers, before Pickett went out, and then they lost those games, the two win teams. So, folks, that'll do it for us. Hope you enjoyed the show. Leave a comment, rating, review, wherever you may be watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. NFL Draft, once again, 2 weeks out. And we're going to dig in a little bit deeper into the wide receiver class. If we have time, maybe the DBs, defensive line. Oh, Brian, I don't think I mentioned the visits for the defensive linemen. That was the other day. It was Braden Fisk from Florida State, Darius Robinson, Mizzou. And those were the top 2 guys. The rest of them, like Mason Smith, LSU, Logan Lee, Christian Boyd, Northern Iowa. Those are like day 3 picks. Those are outside the top 100, maybe even top 150. And same goes for, I mentioned Nate Wiggins had a visit. He's pretty much the only guy that looks like a day 1 corner for the Pittsburgh Steelers, where they might be picking at. And then otherwise, they looked at Andrew Phillips out of Kentucky and Max Melton out of Rutgers, who will be probably top 100 picks, but probably in that 3rd round category where the Steelers do have 2 picks, 2 times they get the draft. But otherwise, this is really all over the place this year, man. You got 5-6 wide receivers, 5-6 corners, 5-6 offensive linemen, handful of defensive linemen, and they're all over every single round. There's like I said, there's a smattering. There's 1 or 2 or 3 here or there. But again, as we're honing in on this, man, I'm thinking offensive line. I don't know which position more. You're going to try some. You're going to get me. What happens is everyone twists my arm and gets me to commit to one. And most of these, I couldn't mock. I was happy with just about all of them. So,
yeah, I would be the least happy with Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah.
Right. Only because
LSU guy.
I would be. I would probably be happy. I'd probably be unhappy with any wide receiver that wasn't named Rome, Harrison, or Neighbors. But that being said, they're going to draft a wide receiver somewhere in the top 3. They're going to draft, I believe, an offensive lineman with the 20th pick, whether it's a center or a tackle. Anybody's guess. My preference is center because that's just what I prefer. but I'd be okay. I'm warming to the idea of Cedric Van Pran in the 3rd round, especially if they can't, because like I said, I just don't. If they don't take somebody in the 1st, I don't think they're getting anybody in the 2nd.
Yeah, depending on who they get tells you what their future is going to be, because if Fuaga ends up being there, you're taking a guy that's right tackle specific. If it's fought now out of Washington, he's played left tackle. Is he going to end up playing both? They say Mims will. Mims is a mountain of man, really is, and he played primarily right tackle his last 3 seasons at Georgia. So then that means you move Jones back over to the left. But again, you already got a guy. You've got a guy, and Dan Moore Jr., who has played at the left side, and you can't really play him as a swing tackle. That still leads me nudging more towards center wide receiver and maybe a tackle after. I think that tackle could probably dip into the 2nd round. We will find out soon enough. Where does Graham Barton end up going? Where does he end up playing? Reminds me of Skoronski out of Northwestern last year. Just it's always fun. And then there's all the players the Steelers, haven't how much contact have they had with some of these other players? They go to everybody's pro days. They look at all of these guys. But the guys, again, the visits usually tell you something, that they're interested either in that player or their teammates. And their visits are all over the board. It's pretty much every single round they have a preferred 2 or 3 guys that they're really looking at. It's going to depend who they take ahead. They're not going to go back-to-back wide receivers. I doubt that. So it would be shocking. So, and then my hot take with Brandon Ayuk could be on the table there, but I'm sure the Steelers aren't going to be the only team ringing that phone. And that's why everybody's kind of sitting tight. They're going to see how the draft shakes out, and they're going to see who falls to them before pulling a trigger on spending. I think Ayuk's probably going to be in the 20+ mil range easily, I think, on an extended contract. So, that's the part that won't make me maybe so happy. But then again, you lock down and you have Pickens another 2 years at least. You'd have Ayuk presumably 3 to 4 if he's a long-term type deal, or he's still got 1 year left, I think, on his 49ers contract. So it's an extension of that, and you kind of preserve and you kick that out. You still got Calvin Austin in the coffers and a bunch of just names after that could round out the room. I think that'd be cool. They probably double dip maybe again. We'll be talking about that again either later this week or early next week. I'm going to catch up with Flash, and we're going to talk about all the flashy wide receivers. But until then, folks, my name's Joe. His name is Brian. Brian, thank you for joining us once again.
Always happy to be here, man.
Yep. Always happy to have you. Till next time, folks, we encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.